Here we go. Mort Dog.
Hey everybody, Riot Mort here, back with the patch 14.3 rundown. Can you believe it? We are down to our last few patches of Remix Rumble before we move on to the next set. Pretty crazy how time flies. We're getting near the end of the set, and it definitely means probably not time to do crazy reworks or any big adjustments like that. This is also a patch where a lot of regions are going to be doing their regional competitions, so don't expect too much. The meta is in a pretty solid place. I mean, the set's getting kind of figured out, but there's a lot of viable paths. There's some reroll comps. There's some level 4, level 8 comps, stuff like that. So, again, not a ton of changes here, but let's jump into it and see what we got.
I laugh because Mort Dog is trying his best to sound enthused, but I mean, you can just tell Mort in general is kind of tired, just like physically fatigued. He's like, can you believe it? That 10-11's around the horizon. It's just like, you can just tell, man. Mort's been working hard. He's been working hard.
All right. So first off, on the system side, and I tweeted about this, but if you don't catch my my Twitter stuff, all players now get the same number of items at each stage. What this means is there's no world where you get 3 items and somebody else gets a gold start, or you're down 2 components at any point. Everyone will always have the exact same number of components from their PvE rounds. Now, this is a temporary measure. This is going to lower game-to-game variance. This is mostly because we know we're in the
I'm okay with that.
part of a set that we can do this. The game will quote-unquote be a little less fun, if you will. But we have a bigger loot system rework coming in patch 14.5. So until then, this will be a temporary measure to fix that, but should be good to go.
Okay. He says the game's going to be a little bit less. Okay, before we get into it, no more gold openers. No more gold openers, at least temporarily, and people will have normalized starts in terms of items and theoretically gold. Now, of course, I don't think that changes things like duplicators and whatnot. But I will say one thing, which is, what do we complain about now? This was like half of Setsuko and Soju's content. This is terrible news for some TFT streamers. Because now all of a sudden they have nothing to do for like another, 2 patches? They're going to have to innovate. Can't just do the same thing over and over. That's okay, though. I'm tired of reruns.
And again, should make... We don't want...
Also. He said it's going to be less fun, but I don't know if that's actually the belief of at least the people on Twitch. He's probably talking more to the general audience. I think a lot of people are going to raise their eyebrows and be like, what? It's going to be less fun? What are you talking about? But the reality is, if you're playing, a card game or a board game of anything, and you get like the same type of start every single time, it's not that interesting, right? So the logic behind what Mordoc's saying is it's going to be less fun in terms of the less amount of varied possible ways you can start off. If you think about TFT as also kind of like a roguelike game, you kind of want a lot of different variations to how your openers can get you to the certain paths and win conditions that you want. I get that. That being said, I don't think it's going to be that fun. Or rather, I don't think it's that big of a problem and that big of an impact to my fun. But we'll see. I mean, maybe people are going to be complaining and be like, bring back gold openers.
Starts deciding worlds and stuff like that, so that should help. And then the other thing...
Oh, you can't see more? Oh, yeah, sorry. Let me move my
to
thing.
Appear multiple times before waiting for the 4 shops as intended. You shouldn't really notice this, but if you ever saw like Bruiser, then Bruiser, hopefully that's fixed now. So, there you go. All right, on the trait side, 6 Emo got those big buffs a while ago, but really didn't move the needle enough. We're not seeing a lot of 6 Emo. So 6 Emo gets 10 more AP.
Okay, how about that?
Free. Cool. Executioner.
Sorry about that.
Executioner, the buffs were successful. They crit more, which is neat. But the pace of combat around Executioner builds is just way too fast. Things blow up way more than we're really comfortable with.
True.
You see a Vex 3 just delete entire front lines. So Executioner is being lowered at 4 and 6. That maximum critical strike chance, so they'll just hit a little less hard.
You know what's so funny? The patch is almost over, and people still don't really realize that 4 and 6 Executioner is really good. I see a lot of people are be like, oh man, Executioner Karthus, where's my pentakill version? Just play 4 Executioners, man. It's still really good. Really, really good. Also, 6 Emo being even better. I don't even know if 6 Emo needed the buff, but maybe it did. I don't know. Emo Emblem in general is really, really good. Maybe it's because if you get emo, you still want to just play like 2-4 emo and just play like an emo on a Jin or emo on a Karthus and like not actually go for the 6 piece. So maybe because you don't really want to be playing things like Annie if it's not a crucial part of your strategy. This might make 6 emo Annie really good. Like really, really good. Who knows? Who knows? I'm not entirely sure.
No big deal. All right, Heartsteel. Heartsteel definitely, at least in NA, don't know about every other region, but in NA it seems to be the flavor of the month. And we're happy with Heartsteel. It's an econ trait. It does what it does. Sometimes you win with it, you get big cash outs.
We're happy with Heartsteel.
Sometimes you lose with it, and then you have to, grief the other person. I don't know. That's how Heartsteel works. It's risky. But the thing we don't really like about Heartsteel is, like, let's say you play it to perfection, you get your cash out on round like 4-5, 5-1, somewhere in that 8 area, and then you just keep winning. It snowballs on top of each other.
Whoa, wait, I just realized.
Per kill. And so you end up actually
18x.
Here, have a free Thieves Gloves on top of everything. Have a free extra component. Have a free extra support item. It's a little much. So we're reducing the hearts per kill from 5 and 6 from 2 to 1. That is a 50% nerf. That's a big nerf.
Big nerf.
And so to compensate, 10 heart steal is one of those things that when you get 10 heart steal, you're probably just winning repeatedly. And we still want 10 heart steal to be really satisfying. So this looks like a massive buff to 10 heart steal, but really it's just actually compensating for the kills nerf and actually ends up being slightly less. But that's why that's there. But again, we're happy with Heartsteel. We like that it gets cash outs. We don't like that it keeps getting free loot after it's already winning. So that's what's being nerfed here.
Okay, so first of all, I like the theoretical approach to it, which is the reducing the hearts per kill. Isn't the problem with Heartsteel in stage 4 right now because of the way people play Raise the Stakes on stage 4? So they're not necessarily impacting Heartsteel specifically in the at the situation of which it becomes really oppressive, is which when you have a lot of HP ahead and you're trying to and you're trying to trade HP because you did such a good job on stage 2 and 3 playing Olaf and playing your whatever tempo openers and then preserving HP, then you raise the stakes, trade a ton of HP with 5 Heartsteel on stage 4. That's the problem. I guess what it is, I mean that's one of the major problems. But this does address the follow-up, right? Like this is not inconsequential, right? This makes it so that if you're not playing that situation, Heartsteel feels a lot harder to pull off in terms of getting the repeated cash outs. If you're playing like the 3 Heartsteel and you're getting like incremental cash outs, stuff like that, that does impact. It's just that one of the other major categories that I think makes Heartsteel very difficult to deal with right now is stage 4. When you're so far ahead, you roll, you hit 5 Heartsteel, you stack that whole round by raising the stakes, and you get like an insane cash out. I believe that's where a lot of people's problems are right now. But this is nice. It's a good step it's a step in the right direction for sure. Like this is not like an inconsequential nerf. And who knows? Maybe what is happening is those games stand out in our mind because they're so over the top. But in reality, maybe those games happen quite infrequently, and it could be one of those things where it only happened like so often, but we remember it very clearly, and therefore we think it's much more representative than it actually is. And this is much more like the average Heartsteel result that ends up being impacted, which is a good thing. So who knows? We'll see. All that being said, it's not like I want Heartsteel to not be viable. A lot of people have agreed that this is a very skill expressive patch. The phrasing that I've heard is that this patch is very skill expressive, but not very fun. It's very boring, it's stale, because the win conditions are quite the same, but it's skill expressive, which really makes you think, by the way. Really makes you think, because that's not the first time we've heard it this set, and it's not the first time I've heard it like across many different sets that's been slanted towards a competitive aspect of game design and balance. Just food for thought.
So if you still want to go like 7 Heartsteel and get those losses will still be worth a lot, but not as much free loot.
It's not impossible to do both.
And then Punk.
I just think it's interesting.
We're really happy with Punk. Punk's tricky, though, because in lower elos, Punk is definitely very dominating. It's very easy to play. At higher elos, though, it's kind of doing what we want it to. And in fact, you don't really see a ton of 4 Punk. It can get like thirds and seconds. But 6 Punk in particular was way too strong. The jump from 4 to 6 from a single spatula was too big. So we're undoing the buff from last patch. It's going back to 420, 42. But again, since you've got the stronger 2 and 4 Punk, should help you get there. Should be fine.
Can we take a second to acknowledge that guy? Okay, I have it. I have it right here. There's a thread that someone posted on everyone's favorite free entertainment platform, twitter.com. And someone said, I called it, by the way, at Mortdog. How did this buff go through? This is a response to Jinx and Punk buff. Jinx reroll is already a powerful comp. And Mortdog responds, sorry, what's the concern? At high levels, we're seeing Punk be playable, but not dominant. Seems like both work out. The guy deleted the post, but there's another person that responded and kind of went in, just be like, you don't know what you're talking about, Mort. Like, Punk is obviously way over OP. And talking about, like, basically, like, how Punk is, like, basically Punk is OP. Mortdog, you're stupid. You don't do your job, etc. And then, he also said that you listen too much to the top players, and also that he's looking too much at the data. And Mortdog says, so to be clear, I live in spreadsheets that are also clown-filled. Echo chambers, got it. Won't be responding in. Do your research. Punk is fine except 6. Anyways. And then Mortdog nerfs 6 Punk. I just thought that was a really funny episode. Also, why... You know, I'm just going to go ahead and say it's more... You don't have to respond to these people. I know you feel like you should. You don't even have to respond to the big streamers, but you do anyways. And Godspeed, sir. Godspeed. You're doing the Lord's work.
All right, on the champion side, Olaf. I love Olaf, but he's just a little too good at
Baby
3-star.
clone.
It's mostly due to the way his scaling works, because he gets a bunch of attack speed the lower flat health he has. And the way 3-star scales with that flat health gets a little out of control.
Your Cam is blocking the center change.
So
Here you go.
The heal on auto only at 3-star, a tiny bit here. Should still be fun. We've still seen Olaf builds be successful on PvE. I'm not too worried about it. Senna is a champion that really fell off after the first patch once True Damage Emblem was nerfed. We don't really see a lot of Senna. This is a very tiny buff, though. As you can see, it's just 5, 10, 30, you know. Maybe 3-star Senna.
So now you see she got buffed
here,
by a little bit.
Really light touch here to get Senna to be played. But the fact that people are seeing Senna headliner on 2-1 and going, no thank you.
This Senna buff, in my opinion, I still think she's a good 2-cost to play around, but she might go back to being like the best 2-cost headliner you can hit now, because she's just very reliable. In fact, I'm pretty sure if Disco was still was still pretty strong, people would still be buying Senna pretty often. She's actually kind of fine. It's interesting that she's getting buffed, because she didn't even really get really nerfed when she was like also the very strong 2-cost to play around, but that's because True Damage was also OP. They're nerfing Olaf 3, but my problem with Olaf is headliner as a tempo unit. Headliner Olaf is like kind of gross. It feels like your entire early game is predicated on whether or not your backline units and DPS unit can kill Olaf as a headliner. So I wish that Olaf headliner got taken down like half a notch, not even really, like a third of a notch. Like, a lot of reasons why people don't want to play certain early games is because if you hit Olaf and you have like a Corki, you can't really kill Olaf. So I think if I were to tweak things, I feel like Olaf headliner could get nerfed a touch. But I think they don't want. But the thing is, if you nerf Olaf headliner, then you make the Olaf reroll worse. But I think that he's doing that anyways. We'll see.
Not really a good sign. Lux, pretty similar. We're not really seeing Lux builds be that successful. Again, going to be gentle here. Small buff to Lux. 10. Nothing crazy here.
This guy didn't watch my YouTube video, but that's okay. I think Lux 3 is like. Okay, this actually makes Lux 2 potentially better. Like as a headliner, I think people don't play around her a lot, and if you play a Disco setup or something like that, you can totally play Lux as a headliner if Disco becomes stronger. So just keep it in mind. You probably buy Lux as a headliner now. I'm not sure about Lux 3. Like this 575 actually gets kind of crazy, because this 25 damage buff might not seem like a lot, but a lot of times the best way to play Lux is to stack AP, so that multiplies a higher base number. So it might end up becoming kind of nuts. You never know.
Mordekaiser, hilariously enough, is like the secret sauce of the patch. People always ask me what's an underrated comp no one ever talks about. If you look at our data right now, headliner Mordekaiser 3 is like bonkers good. It's actually insane. But the reason it doesn't matter is because so many people are playing Mordekaiser. No one can ever actually get headliner Mordekaiser 3.
Yeah, true.
But Mordekaiser is also a key component of like a lot of pentakill comps, stuff like that. So his damage is being lowered 10% here. It is a bit of a nerf to Mordekaiser. Good news is from testing on PB, he still seems like he's okay, but hopefully shouldn't give Pentakill quite as much free damage.
I like to take partial credit for this because Mort was asking high elo players for any examples of Mordekaiser as a headliner, and I think I was like one of 2 people that responded. Not that I'm taking responsibility for the nerf. I'm just saying that I feel like I contributed a little bit because I was showing him screenshots. Let me see if I can show it to you guys real quick. I was showing him screenshots of Mordekaiser 2 doing damage. Let me see. I got it for you right here. Look at this. Look at this real quick. This is a Mordekaiser 2 out damaging my Viego 2 with 2 items. 2-star Mordekaiser that's a headliner with Crown Guard, Titan. It's not even like he's going like AP or anything like that. 2-star Mordekaiser headliner that got like a couple of stacks just doing like this much over like Viego 2 and all stuff like this. I was showing him like some of my rounds stuff like that. So this Mordekaiser 2 is actually kind of nuts. Yeah, you're right. I do get some AP. It's just that Mordekaiser headliner. He's right. Mordekaiser headliner. It might be one of the biggest secrets that people don't really know about. That's like insane, but people don't play it.
And then Set. This is part of the Heartsteel nerf as well. Heartsteel, a very good trait, but it turns out when you also get to play Set in the late game, who's already kind of over budget, 950 health for a 3 cost is pretty insane. And he actually hits really.
Someone said Viego has shitty items. He has Sterix Gauge, which is one of his best items possible in the entire set. And he has a Last Whisper. What do you mean he has terrible items? That's not even bad. I know the Last Whisper doesn't proc because of the first instance of the ability damage, I think, or whatever, but like, that's not bad. What are you talking about? And also, Viego does AoE damage. All right, you know what? Never mind. That's
hard with his ability. So he's going to lose 50 flat health. Should bring him down along to the other 3 costs. And his spell will hit less hard, so you're getting less free damage from a Set. So hopefully this also puts us in a world where Zac is actually better than Set all the time. Right now, that's pretty debatable.
Oh, Set is way too good.
He has such good traits like Mosher. But yeah, so that's the second nerf to Heartsteel there.
They should have not nerfed Set 3 because then you still can't play the boss. I'm sad. Because Set Headliner is also like low key, like even lower key than Mordekaiser. Set 3, Headliner Set with 6 Mosher, Submit to the Pit. Low key, insane. But
on the 4 cost side,
that's too good. That's too good.
And this is the buff I admit after playing on PB I'm a little nervous about, so we'll see. But
Caitlyn
is a champion that has kind of fallen off. No one's really excited to build Caitlyn.
Oh,
so we're gonna let
man.
her shoot her ult after 1 more auto.
Oh, man.
So with Shojin or without Shojin, that's 1 more auto. So she'll just be able to ult a little bit more often. We're not buffing the damage or anything like that. No.
I just want to say one thing. I don't like Caitlyn. I think Caitlyn's actually just as bad as Karthus because of the way she targets backline. Like, if you play Ezreal, you know. Caitlyn targets something, and then Ezreal just body blocks the bullet, and then Ezreal just dies. Or, like, you know, I don't know. It could actually be, like, with Viego and Zed and other things like that. They just come in, and all of a sudden they get body blocked by this. I really don't like Caitlyn, and I think she's actually fine where she is. I'd rather her be slightly underpowered than slightly overpowered, and she might be slightly overpowered. Who knows? The 7-5 mana is a big deal. Also, make some superfan builds much better, potentially, because she has Shojin. Maybe she can cast a little bit more often. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll see.
Deal.
It's probably this is. I don't think this is
Fate
necessary.
Is similar. Twisted Fate was definitely a bit of an over nerf. Disco got nerfed. TF's mana got nerfed, and his damage got nerfed. So we're undoing one of those, which is TF's mana. So he'll be able to cast a little bit more often. Hopefully brings Disco back into playability. And then Karthus. Karthus, this is meant to be a little bit of a nerf. But his rework was pretty successful. But the first cast is still hitting harder than I think we want it to.
Okay.
Sometimes you're still seeing units kind of get deleted from that first cast. So we're lowering the base, but upping the AP per cast. And so the idea here is, again, first cast should be weaker. Second cast probably about the same. Third cast and beyond should be quite a bit stronger. So light touch here to Karthus to kind of get him in that shape that we wanted from the rework.
Oh. I mean, okay, what do you guys want me to do? Go bottom left now? Here you go, bottom left. Here you go, bottom left. This is the Karthus change. Okay, so the Karthus rework was successful. I guess he's saying, like, in terms of what they want for the design. They want the design for Karthus to feel like he's a ramping champion, not feel like he immediately bursts and kills. So what they're trying to do is rework the scaling So he does again less damage on AP per, and he gets more AP per cast. So it just makes the first and second cast has a big difference. This just makes it so Karthus first cast might not do anything. Sorry, not do anything is kind of an over exaggeration, but they're also nerfing 4 Executioner. So they're nerfing 4 Executioner. They're nerfing like all the base damage of Karthus first cast. He might not do much, especially if you're playing like Executioner comps. You're like, okay, I'll like splash in Karthus. Maybe this Karthus naked won't do anything. TF buff. I mean, this it is what it's pretty obvious at this point. We need Twisted Fate to be stronger. Whether or not it's mana or damage, whatever. I'm in favor of buffing Twisted Fate the unit and not Disco, because I want TF to also be playable outside of Disco, like as a potential item holder. And that was actually something that was kind of nice about TF being OP. At one point, you could actually have played TF outside of Disco and just maybe like flex around it. It's a little bit rarer, but I want to be able to see more of that.
On the 5-cost side, Jin's a weird champion. He definitely like probably is the highest peak.
6-second Karthus, right? I can see it.
Mana Zane, Jin 2, you probably won the game. But you get a Jin 1, and God, you'd barely won it over Corki. Jin 1's really tough to deal with.
Over Corki? Wait a second. Who here is going to want to play Corki over Jin 1? I know Jin 1's not amazing, but like over Corki? Really? Okay, that's a little bit of an exaggeration. Everyone in chat saying me. You guys are all liars. I would rather play Jin with blue buff, Edge of Knights, and like GS over a Corki too. Really?
But part of that is just how fragile he is as well. So we're upping his armor and MR and HP quite a bit. So even just as a warm body, he should be better. But this should hopefully allow him to be a little bit stronger without upping his damage in any substantial way. And then finally, Sona. Really, nobody plays heal form. So
that is true.
Heal form's getting a buff.
That is true.
1% more from that ability. And the shield duration will last a half a second longer. So hopefully that shield can really prevent damage and open that up as an option for Sona.
Okay, so thumbs up, I guess. I mean, Jin should be a strong unit. And this doesn't actually affect Jin 2, really. Like, if you hit Jin 2, chances are you're probably going to, like, top 2 win the game. Or at least, like, be in a really good position to do so. So I think this is fine. And they're just trying to make Jin 1 survive a little bit more. Because the problem with Jin 1, he's so vulnerable to things like Karzakali and now Caitlyn that this actually might being a huge buff to help Jin stay alive a little bit longer. So I'm actually okay with this. In healing Sona, I just have yet to see a situation where healing Sona has been good and better than everything else. The problem is, you guys remember what happened in PBE when we had double Rage Blade healing Sona and it became too good. I'm not entirely sure what this is, though. This is like a math breakpoint question that someone solves. But I'm in favor of trying to make it so it feels like you can have a reason to choose healing form. In general, in TFT, I would say that one thing that we've always struggled with is 3 choice hero, like hero power stuff or abilities. Like, you guys remember Aphelios from set 8 with the blue gun, red gun, purple gun? There was always one gun that was the pick, and then like sometimes you would pick another one, and then the third gun that was like never pick, and you just kind of rotate it over and over and over based off the patches. And I'm starting to think that maybe that's just like how these champions are going to be. There's always going to be like one really clear option for the most part, and then like sometimes you pick a second option, and the third one's just
more
like
from that
impossible.
Ability. And the shield duration will last a half a second. Happy with the Vi buffs and stuff like that. Vi's in a really good spot. Headliner's just a tiny bit too strong in the early game, so it's losing 50 HP off the Headliner. That's it. Nothing too crazy. Kale's another one, looking really good. We're pretty happy with Kale. Headliner, tiny bit too strong, so losing 5% attack speed. Zed, this one's a little complicated, but basically the Headliner bonus used to be Shadows gain 10% attack speed and AD. We took that away and just giving Zed 5% flat AD. It's less confusing. The Shadows were it was hard to really appreciate that attack speed. So I think it amounts to a very slight buff, which is, I know, questionable because Zed is already very strong.
What?
So anyone going, what? They're buffing Zed?
Okay, so we're buffing Zed. It amounts to a slight Zed buff in terms of the math. Vi is strong. Like, this is a little bit strange to me because it feels like we're nerfing 6 Punk, we're nerfing Vi, so now Vi is going to be even less viable. But If we're nerfing Vi, that means that the clear best one cost headliner is Olaf. Like not even a shadow of a doubt. So like it feels like we could take down Olaf a little bit. Kale, 20% attack speed. Apparently there's another text change. Just want to highlight this for you all. But apparently there was an error in the text. If you look at the PB notes, it also says that Kale, her shred reduced magic resistance by 30%. Now says reduced magic resistance by 20%. Apparently this has always been true, and now the tooltip is updated to be accurate, meaning that currently Kale reduces magic resistance by 20%. Current Kale that you're playing right now reduces magic by 20%, and they're just updating it so it's reflected to be true. So for anybody who was like, oh, like why would you build like Spark or Shiv in this spot? Technically, you did get a little bit of value. So don't feel like you got robbed. Now, on the other hand, if you felt like you didn't pick those options because of that innate passive, well, yeah, you got robbed. Also, this Zed being a slight nerf or a slight buff. What did someone say? It's like a 0.01% buff. I mean, still, Zed is too strong. He's so good. He can duel 3-cost 3-stars. He can duel Riven 3 and Yone 3 and come out ahead. I'm actually surprised. We'll see. I mean, it's okay for certain melee characters to be strong, and Zed is very cool. The one thing I will say is Zed is very flexible and trait agnostic. So outside of 2 Crowd Diver, you don't really care about him having everything else, and so it's nice to have that flexibility. But man, Zed is so good.
I know. But hopefully this keeps the tool temp and headline trait pretty simple without buffing non-headliner Zed. And then
okay, but then if this is under headliner bonuses large and it's an insignificant thing, then why is it in this category? You can put it under headliner bonuses small or insignificant. You put it under large.
Finally, headliner Sona. No one's really excited to play headliner Sona, trying to get that be a little bit better. So gains 1% more attack speed per auto attack. On the augment side, Twin Terror. The rework was successful in the sense that now there's a lot of other builds other than just Executioner. It was not successful in the sense
large
that
change to small buff. Yeah, that's fair.
Really, really too strong.
That's fair.
So lowering the HP and attack speed on each. Hopefully these put these augments closer to balanced. Balanced budget was an augment you might take on 3-2 if you need gold. You were never taking it on 4-2. Now there's a balanced budget plus on 4-2 that gives 9 gold per round for
I'm fine with that.
36 gold.
Also, balanced budget was pickable on 3-2 for certain reroll comps if you were trying to spike at that range. So like 2-cost reroll, you actually sometimes took balanced budget. But I like that they're changing this. Also, Twin Terror getting nerfed is a little bit sad, but it is a little OP. I do think that Twin Terror in general was largely colored by his stats because of the Executioners. So this makes it a little bit sad for people who want to play like Twin Terror, like really cool stuff. Twin Terror Lulu, Twin Terror Kale, Twin Terror Olaf, etc. These are good Twin Terror comps. We'll see. I mean, I personally think that Twin Terror is just OP in general, but it was like a fun OP. I don't know. I think I like seeing like variations in the comps, and it gave you an excuse to try something new every time.
So if you really need gold, it should be a better option. Bigger shot. This augment's bad in a world where big shot's okay. So buffing the augment.
They buffed this like 5 times.
I'm looking forward to playing this augment. It's pretty bad, but
man.
now it just says you gain 25% more hearts. So hopefully that helps. Probably the biggest patch here. Switching gears. This augment was whenever your streak gets broken, gain 2 gold, is now gain 3 gold. Which means if you can do a perfect win-loss, win-loss, win-loss early game, it's as powerful as something like Escort Quest as a silver. This is going to be a very strong augment if you can pull it off. So keep an eye out for switching gears. Should be good. Endless Hordes. This is a weird one in the sense that we thought...
This is a big buff, but I'm not entirely sure how viable it is. This is one of those things where maybe like a good player will really like it. We'll see.
We buffed this a while ago, but due to some issue, it didn't go through. So Endless Hordes is HP reductions going back to 15%. So hopefully that helps. And then Starter Kit is an augment. Really good in low elo, not so great in high elo. Trying to be playable. Will now also grant 4 gold.
Oh my god, now there's going to be even more reasons for chat to goad the streamer into picking Starter Kit. 4 gold's a big deal because you can make your first interest gold. Now that the streak gold is a lot worse, in general, any augment that gives you gold is a really big deal to help get your economy going. So now only are you going to guarantee the 4-cost 2-star, but now you're going to be able to have your economy in a pretty good spot. Because I'm not going to lie, sometimes starter kit, you took it and then you sold your unit for 4 gold. He called you out. I mean, that's okay. I've called him out a handful of times. It's only fair. Endless Hordes patch. I mean, I haven't picked this, but Endless Hordes Jazz in general has a lot of potential when you pick Endless Hordes. Someone took Endless Hordes Twin Terror. That combination is also really good. So like Endless Hordes might just be another good combo thing. Like you do Endless Hordes, Curse Crown, Jazz, and just do some crazy stuff. We'll see.
I will say the fact that you get that 4-cost early and that 4 gold should push it up to be pretty powerful. Late game is where it struggled, but having an even stronger early game might make this a really good augment. On the item side, just a couple minor modifications here of lesser built items. Deathfire Grass
this needed to be buffed
compared to new Death
for sure.
Cap, so it gets 5 more AP.
TFT is bad.
Goldmancer Staff, we're happy with the gold nerf. That was good. We
Whoa.
didn't need, people getting 15 gold around. But it's now a little too weak, so it's getting 15 more base AP to make up for that.
I want to show you guys something real quick. Not that stats are the end all be all. It was just funny to see. Sorting by Orn items only. Scroll. Oh, 4.72, a massive anomaly. And that was because they just basically cut the gold in half, which is 50% nerf on that front. If you changed it compared to 14.1, Goldmancer's a 4.2, and then 4.7. So major swing. They needed to buff this Goldmancer. And the reason why I'm showing this is not to be like, LOL, look at the difference of patch. I'm saying the reason why 15 AP, which is a huge buff, the item needs it, man. This item is terrible. It's actually so bad. So I think it's an important buff. I'm just showing that because I feel like people are like, what? 15 AP? That's insane. It needs it.
Hurricane is an item that people haven't really been building. We can't change the shape of champions and things like that. So both it and its Radiant version, the bolts will hit a little harder. So it should be a little more tempting. And Static Shiv is gaining 5 more flat damage, the Radiant 10. So if you want to go those Static Shiv builds, could be an option.
Okay, so Runin buff. A lot of the best Runins users, like Lucian, for example, are going to really love this. Also, Runins is going to be one of the more dominant early game items now, especially on champions that already have a bunch of AD. So if you're playing like a Punk opener with Jinx, Runins is probably going to be a really appetizing slam, assuming that you don't need the components for something else, like Last Whisper, Even Shroud, or whatever. And also on AD champions. I think it's actually kind of underrated on big shot units because you get a lot of AD. And so we'll see. Static Shiv getting buffed. This is the Lightning. Okay. Well, Disco openers, stuff like that. Static Shiv. Shiv's already a pretty good early game item.
On the small side, things we don't expect to change the meta much. Garen is getting a heal per cast buff a little bit at 2 and 3 star. From what I've
My
tested,
Garen
it doesn't
3
really move
builds.
the needle much. You're not going to see like Garen carries run out of control, but helps Garen maybe be a little bit better. And then Jax. This is specifically just
Oh my
the single
God.
target slam is being buffed a microscopic
Oh,
amount.
man.
Again, trying to let Jax be playable as well. But again, shouldn't move the needle much. It's just a tiny buff to Jax.
Tiny buff to Jax. Okay. I mean, 520 to 560 sounds like a lot when you start scaling his AP and a JG, but we'll see. Maybe it's the return of the Jax TD. You know, Malala thinks Jax is actually still very solid. So if you think Malala is good at set 10, he thinks Jax is already pretty solid. We'll see. Maybe Submit to the Pit Jax is going to be insane now.
And then the bug fixes. Fixed a bug where you could find an Akali headliner while having an Akali headliner. Lucian no longer sometimes fires 1 extra shot. Minor thing. Lucian's ability now properly stops scaling at 5.0 attack speed. Apparently it could go slightly beyond to 5.9. Fun fact.
Okay. That's a
Lucian's
good
ability
change.
can no longer benefit from attack speed past 5.0 with Nashor's Tooth.
Wait, so part of the reason why Lucian is so cracked this patch is because he sometimes fires an extra shot and sometimes he scales beyond 5.0. No wonder sometimes Lucian won.
You didn't see that, right? No way he saw that.
Hey, Ramblin', thank you. So sometimes Lucian 1 just shoots an extra shot and now scales like crazy. No wonder like those Rage Blade Lucian 1s were dealing like 6 to 7k damage out of nowhere. I was like, what is this Lucian 1? This guy's an actual demon. It makes sense now.
Fixed a bug where Reforger and Pandora's items could never grant Spear of Shojin. Okay. Fixed a bug where Pandora's...
I'm in call with Malala says he did not say that. Well, then Showtime lied to me. Or he lied to Showtime. One or the other. Let me see. Showtime says, Malala is telling me Jax is insane. I'm literally copy pasting it from my Discord. I literally just copy pasted that. So you tell me what's happening.
items could grant the Hyper Roll version of Gambler's Blade outside of Hyper Roll and vice versa. Yasuo's ability tooltip now specifies he does physical damage. Amumu's ability tooltip
Showtime
now shows his
lied?
armor to damage scaling at each star level. Artifact anvils now read open an armory of artifact items instead of open an armory of Ornn items because they're called artifacts now. Kale's ability tooltip now correctly shows her shred at 20%, not 30%. It's not a nerf. It's just the tooltip's now not lying to you. Binary airdrop correctly grants attack casters and attack carries items for the recommended item. This is a bug fix of the change that was supposed to go through last patch. And then the one not listed here that did get fixed is Scrappy Inventions.
Okay.
Scrappy
Scrappy Inventions.
Now, normally this is where we end the rundown, but we got 2 other slides to go through really quick.
Oh? Okay, real quick. They didn't say that they fixed Kale's bug, which means that she still might have a problem. Kale's bug is where she might have her attack speed reset when things like the pentakill team-wide bonus triggers. And so if you have inconsistent result with Kale reroll, that could be because of that bug, or probably it's very likely due to that bug. So I'm not entirely sure. And the other thing is, if you don't know, Scrappy Inventions, it's a currently bugged where you get buried treasures value. You get components over the next 3 rounds instead of like at the beginning of each stage. So it's just like 1.7 or 1.8 augments in one. It's like not quite 2 augments in one, but it's like basically 2 augments in one. So a lot of people are picking it. You'll see a lot of that in today's tournament.
Galaxies is around, and we do have a couple balance changes for the Galaxies Revival. Battlecast 9 gets buffed. I still don't think it'll be good, but there you go. Cybernetic also gets buffed. It's a trait that's struggling. More HP, more AD, cool. 8 Darkstar, a little too strong, bit of a nerf. Sorcerer, pretty weak, bit of a buff. Minor stuff here, nothing.
Okay, so you guys are rolling your eyes. You're like, okay, who cares about 3.5? I want to show you guys an interesting stat here. I'm going to show you an interesting stat here. If you look at Meta TFT and you click on this button, if you look at the ratio of ranked versus set revival for the patch, set revival was played a third. At one point, it was half as many games, but it basically, up until a couple days ago, set revival was at half the popularity of ranked. So if you're asking who cares about set 3.5, the answer is at like around a third of the player base, which is a lot. A lot of people are playing it, and that's a good thing. You can construe like whatever you want. Like, okay, like, oh, maybe people are bored of set 10, or maybe say 3.5 is like lit, whatever. But there's a portion of the player base that really wants something like this. So if you can get out of your ignorant mindsets,
man, I'm getting more dogged again.
Crawl out of your little man cave or so and shave your beard, and understand that there's more players to this game that want different things besides like, well, you know, this unit has 10% more ED than he should. There's other players in TFT that actually want that to be addressed. And I guess maybe I should have done this in the other order, but I also released a set 3.5 tier list video. Maybe you don't want to watch it now because I just flamed you. But I released an ultimate comp tier list for set 3.5 revival, and basically you can extrapolate this based off of the buffs and nerfs. So Cybernetic was I put it like Cybernetic's in like C or something like that. Let me see. I did the research, but basically Battlecast is like B. Cybers was like in C tier. And then Darkstar was already kind of good. I'm actually surprised they didn't nerf Celestials because it ends up being really, really powerful. But I put the tier list. I put out all the comps if you care about it. And it took like a couple hours. So, yeah.
On the champion side, Leona gets buffed.
Oh, they're nerfing Shin Zhao. Okay.
So you're going to see, by the way, Leona and Lucian and Cybernetic buff. So hopefully that helps those builds. Poppy gets buffed. Hopefully Candyland can become a bit more of a thing. More health, more shield. Darius gets buffed, probably the most interesting change. I know people love playing their Space Pirates Darius. If you've been enjoying
Darius,
Darius,
sweet. This guy is like really bad. Darius is really bad.
Lucian gets a buff on the AD and AP side. I think Lucian will be very good if you're playing Galaxies. Xin Zhao, stun duration nerf. And then the big three, Ashe, Ezreal, and Master
Okay,
Yi,
so they nerfed
kind
the
of
individual
kings of the
champions.
mode, all getting nerfed quite a bit. So hopefully that makes the mode have even more builds. And then 4-cost Jinx gets a bit of a buff.
Yeah, Jinx needs to be buffed because if anyone's not paying attention, but Jinx needs to be buffed on 3.5 because Teemo outperforms her as the main 4-cost carry to play around, and Jinx in general is the best AD carry to play around, not Jhin, because Jhin is tied to Teemo, and in general Jinx is more flexible because of the Brawler and Blasters builds. Also, Xin Zhao and Ashe have this infinite combo. Basically, the summary in 3.5 is that they changed items, and now you have augments, so you have so many more ways to gain HP. Not only can you get things like combat augments that give you a bunch of HP, but also there's things like Declaw gives you 10% HP, Bramble gives you 5% HP. So Xin Zhao with Protectors, which scales off your HP, becomes unkillable. You put a Bramble, Warmogs, Declaw, and Xin Zhao, and you have all these combat augments like Martyr and Cybernetic Buff, etc. And this dude at 2-star goes infinite, and then you have Ashe with Rageblade Shojin do infinite stun. So that's why it's like really, really toxic. They average like a 3.5 on PvE. And Ezreal is insane because the way we give like a bunch of bonus damage and everything to AP is also insane. Like Deathcap gives 20% bonus damage now or whatever. And then Mastery, I mean, you guys remember how good Bang Bros was. And then they buffed all the underperforming units, which makes sense. So yeah, that's the summary of it.
So there you go. That is patch 14.3. Like I said, a lot of competitions playing on the regional here. A lot of regions playing on whatever. I can't use words apparently. And then we have patch 14.4, which is the Worlds patch, the big championship patch. So that'll also probably be a very small one. And then finally patch 14.5, which will be the last batch of changes because set 11 will be on PBE. So we're getting close. It's pretty wild. So welcome to the new world of 3 sets a year. This is how it's going to work. All right. That's going to do it for me.
That time's almost
That's it for
over.
the patch rundown. Until next time, take it easy.
All right. Thank you, Mort Dog. All the effort and hard work and sweats. Mort Dog taking on a lot of the responsibilities for things like the patch notes.